really good new equipment, and want to just give everybody another reminder of how we use this. And as our IT specialist, they'll share with us what we need to do in terms of the operation of this equipment.
Hey everybody, my name is John Ferguson. I work for Metro National Network. I'm just going to give you a quick tutorial on how to use the microphone that's in front of you. We used these last time, but just as a reminder, there is a button on the right-hand side. Push that once to turn the button on, turn the microphone on, and the same button again will turn the microphone off. If you forget, I'll be over on the side there, and I'll be able to operate your microphone for you in the event that you forget. But if you can operate your own mic, feel free to. On and then off, same button. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I have some committee recommendations in our other meeting, which will include Ms. Smith as the chair of the Finance Committee. So this will be my last opportunity to serve in this space, but I'm appreciative for the opportunity to serve as Finance Chair for these several years. So you have your agenda in front of you, and we'll go get right into it. If there's a conflict of interest, this is an opportunity for each member to disclose potential conflicts and their belief that they can be unbiased and able to participate, or that they elect to recuse themselves from the matter. So given that opportunity at this time. We have two agenda items, and those are the contracts that are here. And so, Dr. Webb, you and your team are recognized to give us information related to these contracts. And I do know we're going to have someone on the phone as well joining us. Hold on one second. Let me turn the mic on.
There you go.
Repeat that again.
Do that again.
Hello, good afternoon. I hope you guys can hear me well. I am present on the call.
Thank you.
What?
Is there any particular order you want to take these? I think the first contract is, I don't know, Melanie, if you want to come up to the mic.
So I push this button. I'm already on. Okay. So in preparation for our Cerner implementation, there's a lot of infrastructure updates that we have to make to the organization. The last time we did updates were, I think, 2016 or 2017, and we were not able to completely get everything we needed even at that time. But basically, it's replacing our wireless infrastructure within the whole organization. We're bringing lots of additional equipment that will bear a heavy load on our current infrastructure, which is also out of date. So that completely has to be replaced. And then the networking, all of the hardware for the back end of that is having to be replaced as well. Again, the lifespan of this stuff is about 5 years, and we're past that now. And it used to be years ago that people would just keep it, but now what's been happening is they are putting security updates on all of the equipment, and after a certain amount of years, they won't take any security updates. So anything beyond its usable life, whether it's working or not, we can no longer use because we can't get those security updates. There's some security equipment that we're putting in place as well, just additional needs there. And then the services from Presidio, which is our partner, that will actually do the configuration and implementation of this. It's also going to require cabling. So this is a complete refresh of our network, which should happen about every 5 or 6 years anyway. We're just outside of that scope of that. Now, we do have some discounting that they're offering us through the end of this year, which is about $400,000. So if we are signing this, we will get this $400,000 discount. So all in all, it's close to 3.5 million to put all of this into action. And it's something that we need. If we don't have it, the investment that we're making in our EMR, we won't even be able to function. So that's where we are.
Questions or discussion?
So have we, is Presidio our current partner?
Yeah, so that is the partner. What they will do is they will add on to our existing overall contract. They will extend financing to us through our additional, just through an addendum. And so we go with with them as a business partner. The way that Cisco works is it doesn't matter. We could throw this out to 5,000 vendors. They're going to give one price, and the first person who requests the price will get that price, and every subsequent person will get the same pricing as well. So there's no real bidding when it comes to Cisco equipment. It's the first one in gets the preferred pricing as long as they're a preferred Presidio vendor.
I say this also comes with 3 years of support. Since we've had them as a current contracted company, how has our service been with Presidio during the last, I guess, contracted term?
Oh, fantastic. They're a great partner. They are pretty much an extension of my resources here in the organization. They are a phenomenal partner to work with.
Does this entire contract come out of this year's budget?
No, it would be a 5-year, lease agreement that we
Okay.
could.
Yeah, it's technically a 5-year financing agreement.
Thank you, Bruce.
We have a Presidio agreement that's been in place for several years.
Yes.
And this would just expand it. They would take on a significant additional infrastructure and also support that. They have been good from my standpoint, but Adam and Melanie are much closer to this than I am.
What are those financing terms loosely in terms of the rates?
I think it was a 4.7, percent. That was what I saw, the imputed rate. But it takes us, I think we're about a $25,000 a month payment to Presidio currently for network and operations. It'll take it up to about $82,000. We have the option, because we will have access to capital, we do have the option to pay for this 3.4 out of our capital. But,
Or any portion thereof.
right, or some portion thereof. They have offered that, and they've been flexible with that. But I just say, we've got that $7 million of capital that we still don't have access to. But right now, if you add this 3.4 to what we shared with you guys a couple of months ago, we've already more than extended our $7 million. So having a financing arrangement gives us a little bit of wiggle room if we want to pay half of it, not half of it, and finance the balance.
How will you guys make that determination? I mean, I guess you're looking at different tranches. I don't know if we get break points, so if we finance half of it versus 3/4 versus the full. And then the other thing is there any kind of, I would assume there's not a prepayment issue if we go back and want to pay it off, if we find that we, for other purposes, need to get that debt off, our balance sheet or whatnot. Is that?
They've indicated that was up to us, and I'll just say, I can't say I've read it in the contract because I'm not a lawyer, but they've indicated to us that we could pay any portion of it up front or as we go if we choose to. And obviously, that'd have to be an amortization payoff schedule related to that. They've been very flexible with this. They do this all over the country. Presidio, I'm talking about, they do.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Bruce. I think at a previous general meeting, we talked about maybe viewing the prioritization list that you all have in mind for those capital funds. So as we have these discussions, it'd be helpful to know, oh, well, this is earmarked, if you would, for this particular initiative, this for this. So it's kind of hard sometimes when we listen to it to say, oh, yeah, it'd be great to pay off half, you know, but we don't know where all the funds will be allocated based on what you all view as priorities, you know?
Yeah.
I
mean,
guess the
that-
most important thing is just, hey, approve it, understand it, but especially if we can go back and pay without.
We haven't changed the prioritization from the last, it was 3 months ago-ish. We haven't changed it because we haven't added anything to it, but the list of requests keeps growing. But right now, the 7.3 million is still as we shared several months ago. We haven't changed it. This one would change it if we decide to pay some of this through capital. But what we're talking about here is really just expanding the lease agreement that we have currently with Presidio to cover this, because we still have some other requirements for the Cerner implementation, all the devices and so forth. This is not the handhelds and the other devices.
Correct. This does
just to
not
be clear.
include
Yeah.
our desktop peripherals or any of that.
This is a fixed rate, so it's not based on any SOFR or any kind of LIBOR minus?
Not floating.
Okay, it is a fixed rate.
Yep.
And then the terms go out how long is the current financing?
60 months from implementation, I think, or
Yes.
Is any of this expense budgeted in our current budget? I mean, we had a contract with them before. So if we looked at the budget for this fiscal year, is part of this in here?
No, it's completely new. And we're outside of any commitments that we had with any of the existing equipment. It might replace some of our support costs, but it would be very little bit.
And just to be forward thinking on this, if you're telling me we need us new systems every 5 to 6 years, we need to plan on this and budget that in 6 years, 5 to 6 years. And if that's some kind of structure that you would be best to handle, I think that we need to make sure that that's added in going forward, not just a revisitation annually or more frequently that in terms of the pay down potential list, but also in terms of making sure that as we have these capital projects, we know that lifespan and can plan on at least what that looks like and have a conversation around that.
And I think this plus any additional equipment that we do have about a 5-year rotation plan that we strive to achieve and haven't been very successful with that given the amount of capital that we have in the organization. But it is never our goal to drop this $3.5 million on any of our 1 years at a time. So, our plan would reflect maybe a third or a fifth of this equipment being replaced in a suitable time so that we can kind of spread it out a little more.
All right, any more questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval?
Been moved and properly second. All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. We'll now move on to the second contract that's listed on the agenda.
And this, go ahead. Dr. Blackledge?
Can you guys hear me well? All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So we have Paralon for us now as a statement of work. Paralon is our current revenue cycle vendor, and so from a regulatory, timing, follow-up, data governance, we have an open connection with Paralon where we send data back and forth. And so what we need now, and this comes on the heel of what Melanie just spoke about, the Cerner implementation, we need Paralon to come alongside us and to look at our mapping, how the data goes across, how the fields go across, and the information that's input into those fields to make sure that from a regulatory standpoint, we're sending our insurance providers everything that they need, and we're doing it in accordance of compliance and regulatory matters. So we need to seek approval for this project so that we can get the project completed in a timely manner, and that we could work with our revenue cycle vendor to continue. The cost has not changed, so Paralon has been a vendor of ours for 8 years at this point in time. We've negotiated the cost for this project actually near around what we paid 8 years ago for this same Open Connect service. So there's not a significant difference from 8 years ago to now. I think that's pretty much, it is relatively a change order. It requires a lot of resources from Paralon end and resources from our end. And so both our IT and finance collectively, we've been together on this decision making as we've walked through and understood the challenges that were before us and what we need at this present time. And that's approval for this work order to continue the work. I will entertain any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Would this be expected to be an annual expense?
Yeah, this one is actually a pay as the implementation occurs. So this isn't spread over time. The contract calls for a 50% payment at time of signing, basically. So pay half of that. And then as services are rendered, they'll invoice us for the balance, and it'll obviously come due at the time of go live or shortly thereafter.
So in reference to where it says a term of agreement is 1 year, what happens at the end of the year?
Well, hopefully we'll be long done by the time the end of the year. So it is a payment of $453,000 for the services listed, and we would think 90+% would be done before we go live. And then obviously there'll be some testing after, but I think Dr. Blackledge would say by a year from now, we should have this have been put to bed and any outstanding issues resolved.
This is for our
Thank you.
continuity of service, so definitely we should have this resolved by then. Our go live is slated for June of 2024, just to put the timing in perspective.
Any other questions or discussion?
I know this was part of a previous conversation, but I see no bids on this. It sounds like they were a prior provider. And I think this part we talked about trying to create, going back, looking at history, but also trying to create some initial kind of minimums by which we would RFP. So I think just to remind our committee of the conversation and trying to continue to drive that conversation forward at $453,000. That's something we're going to be doing, each year. And then also, anything below that, does that really need to come to committee? So this just as a reminder.
That's right. And Christy, I think that's your voice.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, perfect. Sounds good. So from a bid standpoint, it would create some risk for us. I will tell you that we did seek a price comparison, just so that the room is aware of that piece of information. But the bid would create some challenges as we have open accounts receivable with Paralon. So we would have to do some kind of spin down to resolve that. And it is in our best interest from a continuity standpoint to continue and be prepared for this go live where we are for June by continuing with Paralon at this present time.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion if there's no other questions or discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and proper second. All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Those are the only two things on our finance agenda. So we'll consider ourselves adjourned, and we will start our regular meeting in about 8 minutes.